morning, Acadiana, and thanks for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate and the larger Advocate news organization as a whole, Times-Picayune, etc. They bring you great print journalism every day, and every weekday between 9 and 10, we like to bring you the service of an audio version of that wonderful printed news. All the great journalists over the Advocate doing their due diligence and good reporting to cover the state of Louisiana and our city and community here in Acadiana and Lafayette. We could not do this, could not bring you this service without the wonderful volunteer efforts of people like marvelous Bruce, the marvelous Bruce Cohen. Sorry, I was on the spot trying to find a new good one today. I almost reused yesterday's. But Bruce, thank you so much for being here this morning and reading the news with us and for us.
Yeah, well, you can always say fabulous. I'll take that any day.
Well, it's all true, and I thank you, Bruce, and I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street.
Well, thank you very much, my main man, Matt, the tech whiz. If it wasn't for Matt, you wouldn't be hearing my voice right now, my wonderful melodious voice. This is a great service that we offer, so I'm going to get right into it. We've got a lot of news to cover this morning. We'll start off with a non-coronavirus related news item. So there are some stories in there that we'll read today that include that, of course. The teen's second autopsy echoes official account. Preliminary findings point to drowning by Megan White, staff writer. An independent autopsy of Kawan Bobby Charles, a 15-year-old found dead 2 weeks ago in Iberia Parish, has raised more questions for the teen's family. The preliminary findings of the independent autopsy echo those from an official autopsy, with both suggesting Bobby drowned. Even if the scientific reason that Kawan's heart stopped beating is drowning, all it does is lead to more questions, said Chase Tricko, one of the attorneys representing the family. His body was found in a sugarcane field that was not deep enough for an able-bodied teenager to drown. Even if the cause of death becomes drowning, we're far more interested in the manner of death and the events leading up to his death. The preliminary report by the Texas-based American Forensics does not provide new information from the preliminary report released Friday by the Iberia Parish Coroner's Office. Instead, the new report simply confirms the official autopsy's findings. Dr. Amy C. Gruzecki wrote in her report, the official exam appears thorough and the exam findings are consistent with drowning. Her report also notes there was no evidence or trauma or natural disaster. Although Iberia Parish Coroner Dr. Carl Ditch wrote likely drowning as Bobby's cause of death in his preliminary report, Gruzecki wrote pending as the cause of death in the independent report. The manner of death for both reports is pending toxicology results and a police investigation. Ditch noted in his report that muddy water was found in Bobby's sinuses and lungs, which were hyperinflated. The teen did not appear to have suffered injuries before his death, Ditch wrote, and injuries to his face likely happened in the water after he drowned. The teen's family commissioned the independent autopsy in search of answers after they saw law enforcement did not take their concerns seriously on October 30th when they reported Bobby missing from his father's Baldwin home in St. Mary Parish and did not openly communicate what happened in the days after his body was discovered on November 3rd in the rural Iberia Parish village of Lorryville. We think it would help to settle the nerves of the community if the authorities would start treating the family with a little bit more humanity and empathy, Trickle said. The attorney said there is a discrepancy between law enforcement agencies as to why a missing teenager alert was never issued in this case. A spokesperson for the Baldwin Police Department said an officer notified Louisiana State Police of Bobby's disappearance on October 30th, Trickle said, but the officer was told the teen's disappearance didn't meet the threshold to trigger an Amber Alert. If the case didn't meet the threshold for an Amber Alert, which requires evidence of abduction, Louisiana State Police protocol is to issue an endangered missing child advisory to media outlets across the state, according to the agency's website. While we may not be talking about a hate crime per se, we're not saying this wasn't a hate crime. We're still looking at a system, both a law enforcement system and a public perception system, that disproportionately doesn't pay attention to minorities, Trickle said. What makes Kawan's case special is that there has been a massive outpouring of love and support and calls for justice, not just locally and not just in Louisiana, in the United States, but throughout the world. And that is not par for the course, because according to the data, minorities are often overlooked or swept under the rug. We think there's a racial aspect to the case. Bobby's case didn't gain widespread attention until about a week ago, when his family released a graphic image they say was taken while confirming the teen's identity to authorities. A GoFundMe has raised more than $260,000 in 10 days for the family to cover costs of an independent autopsy and burial expenses. The online fundraiser depicts an image of Emmett Till, the Chicago 14-year-old who was murdered by white supremacists in 1955 while visiting family in Mississippi, alongside the image shared by Bobby's family. Some have questioned why the case wasn't immediately classified as a hate crime, but even the family attorneys have been careful from the start not to identify the case that way. We really have been like a powder cake of a society for the past year, said Aaron Alquist, regional director of the Anti-Defamation League. And this just goes right into that space. At points, it almost feels inextricable from so many other things that are happening around us. And I think we've got to be careful not to conflate the larger picture of what's happening in society with this specific incident until we have reason to do so. Alquist, who is based in New Orleans, has been following the case closely as a leader of the nonprofit. It's his job to identify and advocate for fans of hate crimes. There hasn't been any indication or basis of any indication that this was a hate crime, Alquist said. It's not really seemingly being discussed as such. What is being discussed is frustration. I think it's critical that the investigation be allowed to play out and be allowed to progress in the way it needs to. The autopsies give us some insight into the cause of death, but they don't really tell us why he died. The family has continually said that law enforcement has not been forthcoming with information in the case. The relationship between authorities and the family became more strained over the weekend, according to one of the family's attorneys, after information was released to the media before the family was notified. Lafayette Parish Sheriff Tony Romero issued a statement Saturday regarding the investigation in light of the public interest into the circumstances. In that statement, he said the sheriff's office has been treating the case as a homicide investigation from the start and has been conducting interviews and collecting evidence, including a video that shows Bobby along the Laurelville location where his body was found on November 3rd. The Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office, which is handling the investigation, has not released new information in the case since Saturday. We are continuing with this investigation, Catherine Bro, spokesperson for the Sheriff's Office, said on Monday, and we will exhaust every avenue. This case is our highest priority. The recent autopsy findings don't change the fact that an injustice has happened to a Black teenager, according to the family's attorney. At the very least, you still have a system failure, Trickle said. Whether this is a modern-day lynching or whether he was bludgeoned over the head, whether he was fed drugs at the age of 15, whether his body is moved after his death, this case exposes a lot of inadequacies in the system. That can be part of his legacy, that he exposed inadequacies in the system. Okay, let's see. We do have a coronavirus news story as usual. Acadiana virus cases more than double previous week by Ben Myers, staff writer. Acadiana's fall coronavirus spike is rapidly accelerating with new confirmed cases over the past 7 days, more than doubling the previous week. The state reported 1,495 new confirmed cases in the 7-parish region, since November 9th, when there had been 676. The November 9th tally was a 94% increase over November 2nd, when the 7-day case tally was 348. The new confirmed cases represented 6.7% of molecular test results reported since November 9th, an increase from 5.3% over the previous week. New confirmed cases do not include probable cases resulting from positive antigen tests, which the state is now reporting alongside molecular test results. 7-day caseload tripled or quadrupled in the parishes of Vermilion, St. Landry, St. Martin, and Iberia since November 2nd. Lafayette Parish increased more than 140%. Current spike started around Halloween, ending a 2-month plateau with mostly steady rates of new cases, positivity, and COVID-19 hospitalizations. St. Landry Parish's new cases represented 8.5% of test volumes over 7 days, more than doubling since the beginning of November. Leaders in that parish called a news conference Monday to plead with residents to adhere to masking and social distancing protocols. 6 employees who work on the second floor of Unit City Hall tested positive last week, according to Parish President Jesse Bellard. A parish contractor is suspending Hurricane Delta debris pickup for 7 to 10 days because of infections among its employees. Schools, meanwhile, are struggling with staff quarantine, said Patrick Jenkins, superintendent of the St. Landry Parish Schools. If we don't take these necessary steps to contain this increase, it may lead to our students returning to virtual learning, and no one wants that, Jenkins said. And currently, the cases in Louisiana, 5,902, deaths, 197,467 positive cases. 5,902 deaths and 197,467 positive cases. Okay, continuing with local news. We have one more before we take a little bit of a break for some public service announcements. Gauging accuracy, river level predictions at Surrey Street jumped wildly during Hurricane Delta. Staff writer by Katie Gagliano. The U.S. Geological Survey river gauge of the Surrey Street Bridge monitors the height of the Vermilion River. The U.S. Geological Survey's river gauge at Surrey Street recorded sharp river elevation jumps during Hurricane Delta, escalating over 3 feet in less than 2 hours and topping major flood levels such as those in 2016. That flooding didn't actually happen, so what did? Scott Perrian, USGS supervisory hydrologic technician, said it's likely a large chunk of debris such as a downed tree or a cooler dumped into the river, drifted under the bridge and became lodged in the path of the radar until that assesses the river's elevation. It's possible the debris came from downstream as the river experienced backflow and floated away once the river's flow again shifted, he said. The river's elevation is measured by a radar unit housed inside a box secured to the side of the bridge. The radar beam pings the surface of the water and determines how much the river has risen or fallen by measuring the length of time it took the beam to ping the water surface and return to a sensor, Perrian said. The unit compares the measurement to a pre-calibrated reference point and makes a calculation. The reference point is hand-calibrated by field technicians every month to ensure accuracy, he said. They're very accurate. It's a newer form of equipment that we've been using the past few years because it's called a non-contact sensor. So there's nothing physically in the water that can get damaged or hit by debris or knocked out during floodwaters, Perrian said. It's kind of ironic that you're calling and I'm telling you this when the site went wacky. We can't prevent everything. We can't prevent things from coming upriver and getting in the way, but we try to do our best to minimize that if and when we can, he said. The river's shocking supposed height was characterized by 2 large jumps. The first, from 11.56 feet to 13.67 feet, happened in less than an hour between 7:15 p.m. and 8:15 p.m. on October 9th, and the second, a jump from 13.67 feet to 16.93 feet, happened by 10 p.m. that same night. The leaps were reflected on graphs as nearly straight vertical lines. For comparison, during the 2016 floods, the Vermilion River at Surrey Street crested at 17.62 feet. If accurate, the 16.93-foot height would have been the river's third highest crest at Surrey Street in recorded history, according to the National Weather Service's tallies on its Advanced Hydrologic Prediction Service website. Perrion said sharp vertical jumps like that don't happen naturally and were a tip-off that something was wrong with the gauge. It didn't look right. It didn't look like your normal hydrographs with the river rising and falling. It's very jumpy, very erratic. There were large increases over a short period of time and then erratic data after that. Jonathan Brazel, a surface hydrologist with the National Weather Service in Lake Charles, said the agency received a number of confused and concerned calls by Lafayette residents the night of Hurricane Delta's landfall as people watched the river elevation graph spike. The National Weather Service uses data from USGS gauges to track river levels and make elevation and flood predictions. Brazil said the data from USGS was adjusted on the Weather Service's prediction website between late October 9th and early October 10th, then turned off entirely as technicians realized the data veered heavily from the performance of other nearby Vermilion River gauges. That, combined with their knowledge of the storm's rainfall rates, made it clear that the data was absolutely incorrect, he said. Perron said the data wasn't removed from the USGS website until later in the day, October 10th. Staff members don't work 24/7 during storms because of safety restrictions around being in the field while tropical storm force winds are present, but they did remove the data as quickly as possible once they determined it was invalid. If the elevation data has been wildly askew, registering 19 feet or higher, the system has an internal trigger to prevent the data from being shown on the internet until it can be verified as accurate. To prevent public panic, he said, it's important to strike a balance between being skeptical of the data while also not pulling data off too quickly in case it is inaccurate and needed to warn the public. Accuracy is at the core of what they do, Perrion said. We don't want to cause panic when there's no panic needed. Local officials are looking at this data and they're making decisions based on our gauges for evacuations or road closures. We want our data to be as accurate as it can be on our webpage, and if it's not, we're going to try to remove it. Sometimes that can be confusing because people see things and then all of a sudden it's gone. But if it's gone, there's a reason it's gone, Perrion said. While the gauge readings were incorrect during the storm, the gauge operated the way it's programmed to. The gauge began producing reliable recordings within 24 hours of the storm ending, and technicians found no damage to the equipment during a field evaluation in mid-October, he said. The radar unit is actually more hardened than other measurement methods because there are no sensors or other pieces of the equipment that can be destroyed by debris or swept away during storms. In those cases, the gauge won't read until the equipment is repaired or replaced. In early October, the Surrey Street gauge only needed the obstruction to disappear to begin working effectively again, Perrion said. Though the USGS does not have continuous elevation data for the Vermilion River at Surrey Street during Hurricane Delta, it does have an idea of the river's crest during the storm. The site's peak verification gauge, a length of redwood and cork inside a pipe, registered a crest of 13.91 feet during the storm, he said. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break and read some public service announcements. Vitalant, urgent need for blood donations. Blood and platelet donations often drop during the holiday months as fewer donors are available because of seasonal activities and illnesses, but this year the outlook is particularly worrisome, with many schools transition to virtual learning and businesses in work-from-home situations. About 1,600 Vitalant blood drives have already been canceled for November and December. Currently, there's an urgent need for O-negative blood, a universal blood type that all patients can receive. O-negative donors can maximize their impact by giving a power red donation. We encourage donors to make an appointment by visiting Vitalant.org or by calling 877-25-VITAL. That's Vitalant, Vitalant.org. And again, the number is 877-25-VITAL, 877-25-VITAL. The CIS invites patients to participate in the Great American Smokeout. Make an appointment for the week of November 16th through the 20th, this week here. All Cardiovascular Institute of the South, or CIS, clinics are celebrating the Great American Smokeout on Thursday, November 19th by scheduling appointments for the CIS Commit to Quit Tobacco Cessation Program. This will be a week-long tobacco cessation event, and CIS's theme this year is Distance Yourself from Tobacco. Commit to Quit at CIS combines medical evaluations, medications, both prescriptions and nicotine replacement, and supportive counseling services, both individually and as a group. Some of these services may be available for Louisiana residents free of charge through benefits of Louisiana Smoking Cessation Trust. Smoking is the largest preventable risk factor of cardiovascular disease. Eliminating the use of tobacco dramatically reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and lung disease. CIS works with each patient individually on a personalized quit plan. To schedule your consult, please register at gaso2020.eventbrite.com or call 1-877-288-0011. You can learn more about the program at their website, cardio.com/tobacco-free. Again, that number is 877-288-0011 or register at gaso2020.eventbrite.com. Okay, let's get back into our news before we're almost getting close to the half-hour break where we do the day in history, the zodiac or horoscope, and the funerals in the Acadiana area for today. Here's a story entitled Youngsville Leaders Employees Getting Pay Raises by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Youngsville city employees are getting a 3% raise, and the mayor and the police chief will also see a salary bump thanks to better than expected sales tax revenue this year. The planned annual raise for municipal employees was put on hold during budget hearings over the summer as the Youngsville City Council braced for lower revenues because of the pandemic. We were fortunate to be in this position where we're a third of the fiscal year in and ahead over 8% of our sales tax, said Youngsville Mayor Ken Ritter. It's been a tough year for everyone, and when we did the budget, of course, we expected to be down. Said the city has actually seen higher than average sales tax revenues in the months since the novel coronavirus was first detected in the region. The novel coronavirus. The City Council approved over the summer a modest budget anticipating a 6% decrease in revenue for the fiscal year that started July 1st. Coronavirus has not had as great of an economic impact as expected. However, with Youngsville revenues well above budget at 12% higher than this point last year, the City Council unanimously approved the raise during its regular meeting on Thursday of last week. I sincerely appreciate the recognition of them, Ritter said. They've worked hard with several hurricanes in addition to all their regular duties, so I certainly appreciate that. The raise is effective immediately for municipal employees, which also include those who work for the Youngsville Police Department and the Youngsville Sports Complex. Employees can expect to see the raise reflected on their next paycheck. The City Council also requested during Thursday's meeting to increase Ritter's salaries from $78,000 to $82,000 per year, and Youngsville Police Chief Ricky Boudreau's salary from $75,000 to $82,000. We believe, the best city. We've been doing a lot of things, said Council Mayor Ken Stansberry. We need to pay these folks what they deserve. Stansbury said the Youngsville mayor and police chief were at the bottom of the pay rate for the positions in Lafayette Parish prior to the raise. I agree with Stansbury and the rest of my council members, said Gary Williams. It's long overdue. The mayor and police chief expressed gratitude for the council's suggestion and support. After looking at comparable ranges of pay for other municipalities, that pay rate puts us in the middle, Ritter said. I think that's probably a good spot for us to be. Scott Mann, heard in Zoom court hearing, outspoken participant, says he stood up for the people, by Ken Stickney, staff writer. A Lafayette Parish man said this week it was his anonymous voice that was heard speaking out Thursday night during a court hearing in Baton Rouge, handled on a Zoom call over Louisiana's COVID-19 restrictions. Blaze Kane, 25 of Scott, told the Acadiana Advocate he was frustrated with how 19th Judicial District Judge William Morvant was conducted the hearing that involved Attorney General Jeff Landry and 65 Republican lawmakers against Governor John Bel Edwards over the governor's coronavirus restrictions. Morvant, a Republican, ruled in favor of the governor, leaving the state's coronavirus restrictions in place, but it was not the result that Kane said angered him. He'd long been booted off the call when the judge made his decision. It was how the judge had to handle the hearing. He had a horrible attitude, Kane said of Morvant. The judge was so rude to everybody, I got tired of him, man. Kane said he secured one of 300 places on the Zoom call because of his interest in COVID-19 restrictions, which he said has impaired businesses around the state and cost lots of people, his family and friends included, their jobs. Whenever I saw the link to get on the Zoom call, I was curious to see how things would go down, he said. But after a few minutes of the meeting, Kane, who works in the beleaguered energy industry, said he's heard enough. He unmuted his phone and spoke out against Edwards' position. If he was seeking instant attention, he got it. I don't know who said that, Morvant said from the courtroom, according to the advocate's coverage of the hearing. And the next person who speaks out without identifying, I will mute them, and they will not participate in this hearing anymore. But Kane said he wasn't finished, especially when Morvant made mention of snide comments coming from the peanut gallery. I guess I was sitting in the peanut gallery, Kane said Monday. The advocate story quoted the anonymous voice as saying over the Zoom call, our state needs to be opened. A comment came confirmed from him for his trouble. Morvant had Kane removed from the call. Kane said he believed that by speaking out, he gave a voice to people who did not have a chance to weigh in at the hearing. He said Edwards is trying to micromanage at every level possible, damaging the economy. He needs to put his faith in us as people, Kane said. He's still getting paid. I have family members who don't have jobs. He said no one from the court has followed up with him since the hearing. I didn't hear anything negative. I heard a lot of positive. People were saying, thank you for speaking up. Through his office, Morvant said, Monday he didn't have time to talk about the incident. Okay, let's turn to the day in history. And we'll also do the horoscope, the zodiac, and the funerals in the Acadiana area for today. Today is Tuesday, November 17th. It's the 322nd day of 2020. There are potentially 44 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on November 17th, 1800, Congress held its first session in the partially completed U.S. Capitol building. On this date in 1558, long time ago, folks, Elizabeth I acceded to the English throne upon the death of her half-sister, Queen Mary, beginning a 44-year reign. In 1869, the Suez Canal opened in Egypt. In 1889, the Union Pacific Railroad Company began direct daily railroad service between Chicago and Portland, Oregon, as well as Chicago and San Francisco. In 1911, the historically African-American fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, was founded at Howard University in Washington, D.C. In 1969, the first round of strategic arms limitation talks between the United States and the Soviet Union opened in Helsinki, Finland. 1970, the Soviet Union landed an unmanned remote-controlled vehicle on the moon, the Lunokhod 1. 1973, President Richard Nixon told the Associated Press managing editors in Orlando, Florida, people have got to know whether or not the president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. In 1979, Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini ordered the release of 13 black and or female American hostages being held at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. 1997, 62 people, most of them foreign tourists, were killed when militants opened fire at the Temple of Hatshepsut in Luxor, Egypt. Attackers who also hacked their victims were killed by police. In 2003, Arnold Schwarzenegger was sworn in as the 38th governor of California. In 2018, tribesmen on the isolated island of North Sentinel between India and Southeast Asia were seen dragging and burying the body of American missionary John Allen Chow, who had reached the island the previous day despite a ban imposed by India's government. 10 years ago in the state, House Democrats elected Nancy Pelosi to remain as their leader despite massive party losses in midterm elections. Republicans voted to keep John Boehner as as their top House leader, making him Speaker in the new Congress. 5 years ago, Republicans urged an immediate closure of America's borders to Syrian refugees, drawing angry denunciations from President Barack Obama and other Democrats, and igniting an emotional debate about U.S. values in the wake of the deadly Paris terror attacks. 1 year ago, pushing back against accusations from President Donald Trump that the impeachment process had been stacked against him, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told CBS that Trump was welcome to testify or answer questions in writing. Today's birthdays: singer Gordon Lightfoot is 82 years old today. Movie director Martin Scorsese is 78. Actor Lauren Hutton is 77. Actor-director Danny DeVito is 76 years old today. SNL producer Lorne Michaels is 76. Movie director Roland Joffe is 75. Former Democratic National Chairman Howard Dean is 72. Actor Stephen Root, who is originally from Baton Rouge, is 69 years old today. Actor Mary Elizabeth Mastriano is 62. Entertainer RuPaul is 60 years old today. Go RuPaul. Actor Dylan Walsh, 57. Former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, 56. Blues singer musician Tab Benoit, right from here in Louisiana in the South and Houma area, is 53 years old today. Rhythm and blues singer Ronnie Duvall from New Edition and Belle Biv DeVoe is 53. And rock musician Ben Wilson of the Blues Travelers is 53 as well. And actor Brandon Call is 44. Looking at the zodiac or the horoscope, if you're a Scorpio, you should abide by the rules and avoid trouble. Use common sense in risky situations, make adjustments when needed. Moderation will be your saving grace. Sagittarius, you need to make home improvements today, help others, and keep an eye out for opportunity. An intimate relationship will require open, honest discussion. Capricorns, take heed, take your time, verify facts, talk to experts, and focus on practicality. Keep your life simple, moderate, and peaceful. Offer others the same freedom you want for yourself. You're Aquarius, and so you should not let a change of plans disrupt your world. Happiness is a prerequisite of doing what you enjoy to the best of your ability. Don't look back. Pisces, you're on a roll. You can accomplish whatever you set out to do as long as you give your all and do your research. Preparation and fortitude go hand in hand. Aries folks, digest what's happening. Choose reason to avoid jeopardizing your position, health, or a meaningful relationship. Excess will lead to uncertainty. Slow down. Savor what you have. Taurus to Bulls, you will have a change of heart, which will lead to a new direction. Don't waste time. Put your plans in motion. Be receptive to suggestions from friends. Family sees a chance to improve your position. Geminis, keep moving. If you dawdle, let someone interfere with your plans, you will miss out on a chance to do something that will lead to self-improvement. Learn from your mistakes. Cancer, don't disregard an offer, a chance to bring about change. You may not relish learning or trying something new, but stick with it. Listen to good advice, proceed with confidence. Leos, concentrate on fitness, health, and getting along with others. Give people the freedom to do as they please. Romance is on the rise. Choose love over discord. Virgos, my birth sign. If problems arise for me today, if someone uses emotional manipulation to get their way, be open and honest regarding my plans. And if someone doesn't want to join in, don't apply pressure to them. Okay, words well taken. Libra, don't take signs. The people who love you will stand behind you no matter what. Take time to enforce better decisions. Implement a fitness routine. Don't forget to take it easy. And as always, folks, as we say every morning at the end of the Zodiac or horoscope readings, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. The funerals today in the Acadiana area, we only have one listed, and that's for Loretta Fontenot, Sacred Heart of Jesus Catholic Church in Ville Platte at 10 a.m. Okay, well, let's go back to a couple of public service announcements before we go back into the news. Request for mosquito control now available for Lafayette 311. Lafayette Consolidated Government, LCG, is increasing mosquito abatement efforts in the parish, and increased mosquito activity is a common occurrence following a storm event, which we have had many this season. Citizens in noticing an influx of mosquitoes in the area can now use the Lafayette 311 portal to request service. All submitted requests are routed directly to Mosquito Control Services, the mosquito control contractor for the parish. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch for the daily schedules and to submit content for the program. Visit their website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Keep it calm through the COVID hotline. If you're feeling overwhelmed with the stress, fear, and anxiety about this pandemic, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This will connect you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services in your area. Trained counselors are available 24/7, all calls confidential. If you feel the need, please call 1-866-310-7977. And locally, we still have the program #StopTheSpread. Call instead. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information locally, you can go online at 311 Lafayette.services, or you can call our centers with volunteers and medical professionals who are active 24/7 to answer questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You can also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner or employee or looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Okay, getting back into our news. A superintendent outlined sweeping changes. State could see first overhaul in school scrutiny in more than 20 years by Will Sintel, staff writer. State Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley on Monday outlined potential sweeping changes in public school operations to tackle shortcomings in 6 critical areas that keep Louisiana near the bottom in national surveys of student achievement. Brumley told a key education advisory panel that the state ranks 49th in 4th grade math, 49th in 4th grade reading, 48th in 8th grade math, and 44th in 8th grade reading on the nation's report card. We can all agree that we want to get better, he said. The rollout includes a wide range of possibilities, not a finished product ready for final action, but it also represents one of the first times Brumley has sought to put his imprint on school operations beyond the daily problems caused by the coronavirus pandemic, which was well underway when he started the job on June 8th. The list of ideas include a new focus on addressing literacy roles from kindergarten through 2nd grade, ensuring students have mastered essential skills by the 4th grade, and changing how children in grades 3rd through 8th are tested and how often. The overall will be the first of its kind since the state launched its latest bid to improve student performance more than 20 years ago. The effort was aimed largely at requiring that students demonstrate minimal skills before they are promoted to the next grade and to end years of social promotions. But students are still falling short in all 6 critical goals spelled out by the State Department of Education, including kindergarten readiness, students mastering key skills by the 4th grade, and leaving high school ready for college or a career. Only 43% of kindergarten students are reading on grade level. Less than half of 3rd graders demonstrate mastery of key subjects, and more than half of 9th graders have failed to demonstrate the needed knowledge on top subjects, according to the department. In each case, Black students trail white students by substantial margins, highlighting the state's long-time achievement gap. 8 of 10 high school students graduate on time, low by national standards, and about half of those graduates will earn a degree that includes basic or advanced credentials. The report said just over 60% of high school graduates qualify for a college tuition college scholarship called TOPS for the Taylor Opportunity Program for students, and that increasing problems with students earning a modest score on the ACT is a chief culprit. In 2018-19, a total of 17% of high school graduates failed to qualify for TOPS because they could not achieve the minimum required score on the ACT, which is supposed to measure college readiness. The state's latest average composite score on the ACT is 18.7 out of 36, the lowest score in the past 7 years. Brumley made his comments to the Accountability Commission, a panel of educators and others that makes recommendations to the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Bessie would have to approve the changes and possibly the U.S. Department of Education. Brumley said he is trying to get a public conversation going on a topic that has clearly been the subject of extensive discussions at the State Department of Education. We are throwing ideas out there and see if we can go somewhere together, he said. Some members of the commission peppered state officials with questions about the possible changes, and the panel voted to continue discussions on any overhaul. Deborah Shum, a former commission member who now sits on the St. John the Baptist Parish School Board, said public school accountability needs to be discussed. It is something we really need to clean up on how we measure our schools and our students, said Shum, a former executive director of the Louisiana Association of Principals. The problems discussed Monday mostly focus on students from kindergarten through 8th grade. While 2/3 of public high schools landed in an A or B rating from the state, only 40% of kindergarten to 8th grade student schools did so. State scrutiny of schools has long focused on grades 3rd to 8th and high school. Brumley said that needs to be expanded to students from kindergarten through 2nd grade, especially with Louisiana's long-standing literacy program among early learners. The K through 2 piece is something I have heard over and over again to make sure we are focused on what is happening in that early education space, he said. The changes would include end-of-year literacy screenings in all 3 years, including a snapshot of yearly progress aimed at addressing any achievement gaps before children reach the 3rd grade. In another area, the state will replace annual end-of-year exams in English and social studies with periodic exams throughout the year that combines both subjects. That would allow teachers to measure students' knowledge of texts and passages, while also allowing students to learn at the same pace so that no student is at a disadvantage due to a lack of life experiences, according to a department document. Doing so could also trim test taking in grades 3rd through 8th from 5,335 minutes to 4,600 minutes, addressing a long time complaint from educators. Bromley also outlined steps to boost the number of high school students earning associate degrees while in high school. He said only 40% of high school seniors carry a full course load, a long-time problem that often leads to shortened school days. We want to create some additional possibilities, he said. Okay, moving on. USA Today, LSU mishandled complaints. Report says officials failed to notify police of sexual misconduct when required by law by Brooks Cabana. LSU mishandled sexual misconduct complaints against students, including top athletes, according to an investigation by USA Today. The investigation claims school administrator and athletic department officials repeatedly ignored complaints against abusers, denied victims their requests for protections, and subjected them to further harm by known perpetrators. LSU has continued to withhold police and Title 10 records from at least 2 women who have requested copies of the files investigation found. USA Today says records show at least 9 LSU football players have been reported to police for sexual misconduct and dating violence, said since Ed Ogeron became head coach in 2016. The article includes new details involving cases with former LSU running back Darius Goose and wide receiver Drake Davis, which claims LSU officials failed to involve university's Title 10 office or police when federal laws and school policies required it. A separate case also claims the university determined a returning member had sexually assaulted 2 women, ignored an allegation by a third, and refused to move him out of classes he shared with one of the women. The investigation also found 3 cases in which LSU allowed male students to stay on campus instead of expelling or suspending them when they found they were responsible for sexual assault. The men, non-athletes, instead received a probationary period and received deferred suspensions, the article said. LSU also deferred the suspension of a man who stalked and sexually harassed a fellow student, the investigation said, even after he pleaded no contest in court to telephonic harassment. LSU spokesman Ernie Ballard sent a statement that the school is aware of the article and is reviewing the allegation. Interim President Tom Galligan said in a statement Monday evening that LSU has hired Hush Blackwell, a law firm specialized in higher education, to conduct an independent review of LSU's Title 10 policies, and procedures. Galligan said he expects the review to conclude in the spring. Okay, turning to sports, major story that everybody wants to hear about. Is Breeze out? Breeze is out. Saints quarterback reportedly has several fractured ribs and collapsed lung by Amy Just, staff writer. Moments after New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees took a hit that left him grimacing on the turf, rookie guard Cesar Ruiz walked over to check on him. Ruiz, who whiffed on his block, resulting in the forceful tackle that dropped Brees to the ground, extended a hand to help Brees up, but he didn't need assistance in the moment. 24 hours after that collision with San Francisco 49ers defensive end Kentonavus Street, Brees had been diagnosed with at least 5 fractured ribs and a collapsed lung after undergoing medical imaging Monday. Though all of these injuries were not caused by that specific play, according to a report from ESPN Ed Weeder. Brees broke at least 2 ribs on his right side Sunday, and doctors believe that those broken ribs punctured the lung on his right side, creating what's called a pneumothorax, according to Werder. However, medical imaging showed that Brees also had at least 3 broken ribs on his left side. Werder reported those likely from the November 8th game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brees had x-rays done last week, according to Werder, but nothing of concern appeared on the film. The optimistic forecast for Brees to return to play is 2 to 3 weeks, but that depends on healing time, which varies from person to person, according to ESPN Donna Graziano. The realistic hope, Graziano said, is that Brees will be back in time for the playoffs. The Saints, 7-2, are tied with the Green Bay Packers for the best record in the NFC and lead the Buccaneers by a half game in the NFC South. Under completely different circumstances, the Los Angeles Chargers quarterback Tyrod Taylor sustained a similar lung injury earlier this season when a team doctor accidentally punctured his lung while administering an injection. Taylor was cleared to play again a month later. On Monday, Saints coach Sean Payton declined to elaborate on Brees' injury, starting off his interview session by saying, "I'm not going to talk about any injuries on this conference call." When asked later if Brees' injuries are a byproduct of father time or if he's just getting beat up this season, Payton said it's probably the latter. Certainly this element of recovery, Payton said, adding he hadn't yet seen Brees on Monday. Look, he took a significant hit yesterday in that game, and we were mindful of his reps during the week. I'm sure I'll have a chance to visit with him here in the next 24 hours, but he would probably have a better answer for that than I would. Brees said Sunday that he wasn't necessarily dealing with the pain, but that cramping, stiffening was a good way to put it, and it's a cumulative thing, probably not just one rib. The hit Street levied on Brees would have been a sack for a loss of yardage, but Street drew a roughing the passer penalty that gave the Saints a first down. Payton said Monday that in his opinion, the only flagrant hit in the game that deserved a personal foul penalty wasn't the hit to Brees, but rather the shot Saints receiver Tre'Quan Smith took in the second quarter, resulting in a concussion for Smith. Do I necessarily agree that any one of the three or all three are obvious fouls? I don't really, Payton said, but the officials were consistent there. Brees stayed in the game after the hit, but he lined up out wide while Taysom Hill took the snap at quarterback. Hill remained in the shotgun on the next play while Brees went to the bench and threw passes from the staffer. Brees missed only that one play in the immediacy of his hit, then came back and to hand the ball off to running back Alvin Kamara for a touchdown. Brees, while feeling terrible, returned to orchestrate another 2-minute drill, going 5 of 6 with a touchdown pass to Kamara before halftime. I had to find a way, Brees said Sunday. However, when he came back out of intermission and was going through his warm-up throws, he knew he wouldn't be able to perform effectively and handed the game to quarterback Jameis Winston. Payton said the injury was probably going to be the first time in 15 years that it was significant enough like he felt like he couldn't function in the second half. Brees entered Sunday's game with a right shoulder injury, something he said earlier in 2 weeks that he'd been dealing with. He popped up on the team's injury report with the right shoulder ailment November 4th and was limited in practice. Since then, Brees has been limited in 5 out of 6 practices because of his shoulder, including all 3 leading up to the 49ers game. Brees missed 5 games last season because of a torn ulnar collateral ligament, UCL, in his right thumb. Brees has been in the NFL since 2001 and has been with the Saints since 2006. He is the NFL's all-time leading passer, all-time leader in passing touchdowns, and the league's career leader in passes completed and attempted. He has earned 13 Pro Bowl distinctions and has been the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year twice and the Super Bowl MVP. Once it came in for Brees and played the rest of the game, though Payton would commit to a starter moving forward for Sunday's game against the Atlanta Falcons. When Brees was hurt last year, Payton didn't name a starter between Teddy Bridgewater and Hill until late in the week before the next game. That'll be the case this week, too, Payton said. Sunday was Winston's first significant action this season. He completed 6 out of 10 passes for 63 yards. He'll reprise his ongoing role as a Wildcat quarterback, rushing 8 times for 45 yards. Winston was drafted by the Buccaneers, #1 overall out of Florida in 2015, and started for Tampa Bay for 5 seasons. He earned Pro Bowl honors as a rookie after passing for 4,042 yards with 22 touchdowns and a 58.3% completion percentage. Winston led the league in 2019 with 5,109 yards passing, becoming just the 8th quarterback to pass for more than 5,000 yards in a season, with Peyton Manning, Breeze, Tom Brady, Beth Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, Dan Marino, and Matthew Stafford. Okay, it's currently 9:55 here at our news broadcast, and that means that our broadcasts that you hear on our TV stations cancel out at 9:55, but my broadcast can still be heard on our online streaming and radio service, which is Cypress Street Radio. That's CYPRESS Street Radio. Put that in your browser. Go to the homepage and click on the play button, and you'll hear the rest of the news. Or you can go to our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media. I just have one more story here about the Raging Cajuns. Napier denies contact with South Carolina. Raging Cajuns coach among top 5 candidates to replace Muschamp. Focus remains on next UL opponent by Kevin Foote, staff writer. It's getting close to the edge of the college football season. Already one Power 5 football coach has been fired, and Will Muschamp at South Carolina. That means the process of dropping names of potential replacements has begun. Just like a year ago, UL coach Bill Napier's name is right in the middle of the discussion. Just a day after his Raging Cajuns moved up to number 24 in the AP role at 7-1 overall, following Saturday's 38-10 win over South Alabama, Napier's name was mentioned by Football Scoop as one of 5 candidates to replace Muschamp. The other names on the list are Coastal Carolina head coach Jamie Chadwell, Liberty head coach Hugh Freeze, Oklahoma assistant Shane Beamer, and Alabama offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian. Others have suggested Clemson offensive coordinator Tony Elliott may be a candidate as well, and just like last season, Napier wasn't very willing to discuss the issue at Monday's weekly Zoom meeting with the media. You guys have been around me for a couple of years now, Napier said. You know I'm not going to comment on a specific job, especially at this point in time. A year ago, Napier was mentioned as a potential candidate at such openings as Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Memphis, Arkansas, and Baylor. I hope we continue to have this problem, Napier said. That means we're doing something right. Oftentimes, when individuals get recognized, it's a result of the team having success. It's no different from our players than from our coaches. When specifically asked if he or his agent had been contacted by South Carolina or a search firm, Napier responded, "Not that I'm aware of, but like I mentioned to you earlier, I'm not going to comment on specific jobs. This is part of the business. This will be the last time that I'll comment on this now. I said what I wanted to say about it." Napier's Cajuns will dip into non-conference play against Central Arkansas at 1 p.m. Saturday at Cajun Field before heading to ULM at 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 28th. Our focus is our team, Napier said. I feel strongly about staying focused on the task at hand and doing the best job that we can do for this group of players and this staff. That's exactly the approach that we'll take for the duration. South Carolina coaching search is just one of several potential distractions for the Cajuns this week. It's going to be senior day at Cajun Field on Saturday. In addition to the team being focused on a non-conference foe, having already clinched a spot in the Sun Belt Championship game. We always talk about one game at a time, redshirt junior long snapper Paul Boudreaux said. This is the next opponent. We'll prepare this week just like any other team. We'll be prepared as we're playing Iowa State. It doesn't matter if the opponent will go ahead and take care of business. Napier also suggested all the close games UL has played in the season should help them deal with staying mentally on point before, during, and after the Thanksgiving holiday. I do think from an intangible standpoint that this is going to benefit us, Napier said. It's humbled us a little bit too, to know that we've got to be at our best for us to control a game, dominate a game. it was good to finally do that. We're getting closer, but I think these intangibles that we develop with some of these tight games, I think will benefit us going forward for sure. Regardless of the issue, Napier quickly took the positive approach to any potential distractions. I don't think and all of these things are a positive because we're relevant, was significant, he said. We've been in contention and we found a way to build a program with games and do it a certain way. All right, folks, well, that ends this morning's broadcast. It is now 10 a.m. We offer this service for free to the Acadiana community, including visually impaired and those who don't get the newspaper or have access to the news cycle every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can hear us on the audio on all of our TV stations. You can also hear us at our online streaming service, Cypress Street Radio, and our YouTube station, AOC Community Media. We enjoy doing this. If you want to become a volunteer newspaper reader, you can do so by going to aocinc.org and look at the volunteer page, pull it down, and fill out the form for the newspaper reading program, a volunteer program. And Miss Mandy will contact you and we'll put you into a training service. It's really simple, folks. Most of us have been doing this from our home studios since AOC studios have been regulated to just a few people since the pandemic. And once the pandemic is hopefully clear and free, we can get back to our podcast booth, which I really miss. But doing it from my home studio has been nice as well. So as always, I appreciate you listening in. This is Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. I ask you to be safe, be healthy, and be smart. Please follow the COVID-19 protocols. And stay away from people that you don't know, or social distance and mask if you have to be in a crowd or go out shopping or whatever. Just do the things just we have been doing for the last 8 months. We need to stop the spread. Just be smart about it. And as I always say every morning, be kind to each other. Have a great day.